Hello, Connecticut special education leaders, educators, professionals, and families. I hope this finds you and your loved ones well. My name is Alycia Trakas. I am an education consultant at the Bureau of Special Education in the Connecticut State Department of Education. I am honored to represent the BSE under the leadership of Brian Klimkowitz, Special Education Division Director, at our 17th annual Back to School event, and to be providing you with secondary transition updates. Before I begin, I want to thank you all for your tireless work and efforts in preparing for the 2020-2021 school year. We have been facing challenges and navigating situations that we have never experienced before in our lifetime. Albert Einstein once said, "In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity." Through our collaborative efforts and our shared dedication to improving educational and post-school outcomes for students with exceptionalities, we can and we will get through this challenging time together. And as Frances Stetson said during her keynote live session of the Bureau of Special Education Back to School event, we will be stronger on the other side. During this recorded session, I will provide you with secondary transition updates, which includes a review of changes in secondary transition requirements, a review of current statewide data related to the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, Part B indicators number 1, graduation, 2, dropout, 13, secondary transition, and 14, post-school outcomes, as well as a review of secondary transition resources and professional learning opportunities. On this slide, you will find some of the federal and state laws and regulations related to secondary transition, all of which contain hyperlinks directly to the requirement. Today, I will be reviewing changes in secondary transition requirements as a result of Public Act 1949 and a recent court decision regarding IDEA eligibility. Links to these federal and state requirements can also be found on the CSDE Secondary Transition Planning from School to Adult Life webpage under the Laws and Regulations section. I always like to start secondary transition presentations with a reminder of the purposes of the IDEA, which is also one of the missions of the Bureau of Special Education, which is to ensure that all students with disabilities receive a free, appropriate public education, FAPE, in the least restrictive environment that emphasizes special education and related services designed to meet their unique needs and prepare the student for further education or training, employment, and independent living. Pursuant to state statute, as amended by Public Act 1949, transition planning and services are required beginning not later than the first Individualized Education Program, IEP, to be in effect when the student turns 14 with the diagnosis of autism and updated annually thereafter, and for all other primary disability categories, pursuant to the IDEA, transition planning and services are required beginning not later than the first IEP to be in effect when the student turns 16 or younger if determined appropriate by the Planning and Placement Team, PPT, and updated annually thereafter. The IEP must include appropriate, measurable post-secondary goals. In Connecticut, these are referred to as post-school outcome goal statements, or PSOGs, based upon age-appropriate transition assessments related to training or education, employment, and, where appropriate, independent living skills. The IEP also must include transition services, including courses of study needed to assist the student in reaching these goals. For PPT meetings where the purpose of the meeting is the consideration of the post-secondary goals for the student, and the transition services needed to assist the student. I'm going to have a cat in my lap. Sorry, everyone. So again, if for the PPT meetings, where a purpose of the meeting is the consideration of the post-secondary goals for the student and the transition services needed to assist the student in reaching those goals, the school district must invite the student with a disability to the meeting. If the student does not attend the PPT, the school district must take other steps to ensure that the student's preferences and interests are considered. Additionally, to the extent appropriate, with the consent of the parents or the student who has reached the age of majority, and in Connecticut, that's the age of 18, the school district must invite a representative of any participating agency that is likely to be responsible for providing or paying for transition services. Every student must have a minimum of 2 post-school outcome goal statements, PSOGs. One related to post-secondary education or training, and one related to employment. And where appropriate, one related to independent living skills. If the IEP contains an independent living skills PSOGs, there must be a separate corresponding annual IEP goal and short-term related objectives for this transition area. For each PSOG, there must be a minimum of 1 separate corresponding annual IEP goal with related short-term objectives related to the student's transition services needs. As a reminder, only 1 transition area may be checked per annual IEP goal: post-secondary education training, or employment, or independent living skills. On June 10th of this year, the United States District Court for the District of Connecticut published a decision granting summary judgment related to the AR versus Connecticut State Board of Education. On July 10th, the judge filed a permanent injunction, judgment and order, and denied the state's application to stay the injunction during the pendency of the appeal. The judgment displaces the state law and practice to exit students at the end of the school year in which the student turns 21 years of age. This decision supersedes prior guidance issued by the Connecticut State Department of Education related to that law and practice. As a result of this court decision, all students who have not yet turned 22 years old and who have not yet received a regular high school diploma, which includes students who were exited on or before June 30th of this school year due to reaching the maximum age of eligibility in accordance with the then effective state law, remain eligible for special education services under the IDEA up until their 22nd birthday, or until they graduate from high school with a regular high school diploma, whichever occurs first. Students whose eligibility terminated when they graduated with a regular high school diploma are not subject to an extension of eligibility until they turn 22, nor entitled to compensatory education. On August 27th, the Second Circuit Court of Appeals denied the state's request for a stay of the AR decision. Therefore, the Connecticut State Department of Education and plaintiffs will be moving forward with notification and implementation of compensatory services when appropriate under the district court decision. Further information will be provided as it becomes available. As always, please consult with your local board counsel if you have specific questions about the effect of this decision on your provision of special education to students. Last year, in addition to the Connecticut State Department of Education's transition report for 15-year-olds, we created a new report regarding secondary transition, which captures the primary disability category of autism for 13-year-olds as of last October 1st to assist districts in meeting the change of transition planning and services requirements pursuant to Public Act 1949. The Post-School Outcome Survey, or PSOS, in Connecticut is delivered to all students 1 year having exited from special education and is used to gather responses to Indicator 14, post-school outcomes. School districts report PSOS student contact information, which is collected from the Summary of Performance in CDAC for all students who were reported as exiting the district between July 1st and June 30th of the previous school year. The PSOS student contact information data collection will open in CDAC on December 1st of this year. The data are due April 15th, 2021. This data collection can be found under Reporting in Mandatory Off-Cycle Reports. It is number 10, Summary of Performance, the Student Contact Information Collection. Indicator number 1, graduation, is a results indicator. The 4-year graduation rate is the percentage of students who received a regular high school diploma within 4 years, which includes early and summer graduates from the cohort. I'm excited to announce that during the 2018-19 school year, we had the highest graduation rate for students with disabilities, 67.9%. Indicator number 2, dropout, is also a results indicator. The 4-year other rate is the percent of students who dropped out, which includes students who were enrolled in adult education programs or transferred to post-secondary education or transferred to another district but never enrolled in that district or have an unknown status. During the 2018-19 school year, our special education indicator number 2% was 13.1%. Indicator 13, secondary transition, is a compliance indicator with the expected target of 100%. Secondary transition compliance is reported as the percent of students with IEPs age 16 and above with an IEP that includes appropriate measurable post-secondary goals that are annually updated and based upon age-appropriate transition assessments, transition services, including courses of study that will reasonably enable the student to meet those post-secondary goals, and annual IEP goals related to the student's transition service needs. There also must be evidence that the student was invited to the PPT, where transition services are to be discussed, and evidence that, if appropriate, a representative of any participating agency was invited to the PPT with prior consent of the parent or the student who has reached the age of majority. During the 2019-20 school year, our statewide results continue to be in substantial compliance, 99.91%. Congratulations. The Connecticut State Department of Education has many resources and tools to assist school districts with achieving Indicator 13 compliance. These can be found on the Secondary Transition webpage under the IDEA Part B Indicators section. The Secondary Transition Planning IEP checklist is available in both Excel and PDF versions. Additionally, this resource is available in Spanish. The district summary for the Secondary Transition Planning IEP checklist allows districts to collect data on several IEPs. The IEP rubric for scoring secondary transition measures the quality of secondary transition planning and services provided for students with disabilities by looking at best practices along a continuum. As a final thought, please remember that compliance can come as a result of good practice, but good practice rarely comes as a result of compliance. Indicator 14, post-school outcomes, is a results indicator. Post-school outcomes are reported as the percent of students who are no longer in secondary school, had IEPs in effect at the time they left school, and were A, enrolled in higher ed within 1 year of leaving school, B, enrolled in higher education or competitively employed within 1 year of leaving high school. And C, enrolled in higher education or in some other post-secondary education or training program, or were competitively employed or in some other employment within 1 year of leaving school. The use of the National Student Clearinghouse data in FFY 18 and FFY 17 was responsible for improvements in our response rate. Response rates in the year FFY 18 were 38.0%, and in FFY 17 were 40.7%, as compared to FFY 16, which was 13.8%, when we just were gathering data through the post-school outcome survey. Additionally, as a result of using the P20 WIN data, in FFY 18 and FFY 17, we also had the greatest gains in all of the measurement categories. Please note that new targets have been set for 19-20 school year. I'm happy to announce that if you look at the 2018-19 school year, for the measurement category A, 90.21% of our exiters reportedly were enrolled in higher education within 1 year of leaving high school. Again, that is the percent of students who responded through our post-school outcomes. On the Indicator 14 resources page, which is on the Connecticut State Department of Ed Secondary Transition webpage, you will find tools and resources regarding the Connecticut Post-School Outcome Survey, or PSOS. These include a reminder postcard, a cover letter to the survey, and the survey, which all have been translated into Spanish for this 2020 data collection. Additionally, a new companion document, which contains helpful resources for our exiters and their families, was developed this year, and that has also been translated into Spanish. Lastly, on this page, you will find results as well as an infographic from our previous Connecticut Post-School Outcome Survey. I wanted to share with you 3 new federal resources that were revised or created over the course of the last several months. First, the Office of Special Education Programs, OSEP, issued a letter on the importance of collaboration between special education and vocational rehab related to secondary transition, which was the cover letter to their revised resource, A Transition Guide to Post-Secondary Education and Employment for Students and Youth with Disabilities. Additionally, the Workforce Innovation Technical Assistance Center, known as WINTAC, the National Technical Assistance Center on Transition, known as NTACT, and Transcend co-published a new resource, Pre-Employment Transition Services, a guide for collaboration among state vocational rehabilitation agencies and education partners. I will be sharing with you some of the CSDE resources on the following slides, including a review of the Secondary Transition Planning webpage. If you do not receive our Bureau of Special Education updates through the Bureau Bulletin, please visit the link on this page to subscribe. I am sharing this announcement, College Readiness for High School Seniors, which was distributed by the CSDE regarding our partnership with the Connecticut College and Career Readiness Alliance, to share the upcoming coordinated events that will give 12th graders the resources they need to successfully navigate the college process. This slide contains a link to the Secondary Transition Planning from School to Adult Life webpage. There are also hyperlinks to the sections found on that page, which include documents and forms, related resources, resources specifically designed for students and families, IDEA Part B indicator resources, and laws and regulations. Another section on this page is the Connecticut Transition Programs offering transition-only services for students with disabilities ages 18 through 21. Steps to find a list of Connecticut transition programs on EdSite are also included on this slide. Another section on this webpage is the interactive tool, Easing into Secondary Transition, a comprehensive guide to resources and services in Connecticut. This subsection has 3 additional pages. Information regarding contacts to the various state agencies, related resources and services offered by those state agencies, and frequently asked questions. Links to download the contacts and related resources are also included on this slide. I'm excited to share that 2 of our secondary transition infographics providing secondary transition services and secondary transition planning process have been revised and are available with alt text. These 2 resources have been translated into Spanish, including the alt text, to make them more accessible to students and families of Connecticut. Links to Building a Bridge and the Transition Bill of Rights, both of which are also available in Spanish, can be found on this slide. Links to the Connecticut Transition Training Manual and Resource Directory, the Transition Assessment Resource Manual, the Connecticut Core Transition Skills, which is also available in Spanish, and Stepping Forward, a self-advocacy guide for middle and high school students, can be found on this slide. The CSDE is offering several secondary transition professional learning opportunities over the course of this year. Please save the date for the 6th annual Secondary Transition Virtual Symposium, which will take place on Friday, January 29th of 2021. The Connecticut State Department of Education and CERC are offering secondary transition professional learning opportunities. You can find this calendar at a glance by accessing the web address on your screen. Virtual sessions include building a secondary transition assessment toolkit, the why and how, understanding the transition from school to adulthood for students with autism, person-centered planning, including life course planning tools. Please note that sessions will be offered in Spanish, as well as the Connecticut Secondary Transition Community of Practice, known as the COP. Please visit the CERC events page shown on your screen to register for these events, as well as other CSDE CERC events. CSDE and CERC are thrilled to announce that we have developed a 5-part webinar series to support school districts with the provision of transition services while you're operating in a variety of learning models. Sessions include an overview of secondary transition, an overview of transition assessments, and a session related to post-secondary education and training, employment, and independent living skills, which will include activities and resources to support transition services in those areas through the variety of learning models. Additionally, there are 2 webinars available on demand, Transition Assessment and Transition Goals 101. Through our ongoing partnership with both CERC and the RESC Alliance, in addition to the person-centered planning, life course planning tool sessions that CERC is offering, the RESC Alliance will also be offering these virtual sessions. Please stay tuned. More details will be released soon. The Bureau of Special Education continues to support ongoing youth leadership opportunities. Please contact Nicole Vitale, CERC consultant, with questions about the Special Education Youth Advisory Council. Questions about the Connecticut Secondary Transition Youth Advisory Board, the YAB, can be directed to Beth Reel, CPAC Co-Executive Director and Transition Coordinator. I would like to end with a quote from Nelson Mandela. "We can change the world and make it a better place. It is in your hands to make a difference." You do make a difference. Thank you for all you do for our students and families of Connecticut. Remember, you are not alone in the issues that you face, and these challenges will bring new opportunities in special education and in secondary transition. I wish you a positive start to the 2020-2021 school year. Be safe, stay hopeful, and of course, stay positive.